Hey guys, Nicholai I'm here back at you with another Wes Huff reaction video. This one has been relatively recent, in which people are praising Wes Huff for destroying Ethan Carroll. No, I think that's Ethan Carroll. Now, let me make this clear. I'm not a fan of Carroll. I don't like him. I think he's stupid. I think that he speculates far too much and doesn't know enough to actually be speculating on these things. He seems to me to be someone who bases his entire personality on things that he looks up from other people rather than verifying the original sources himself and actually being well studied. Now, someone like, for example, Jay Dyer actually goes and reads the writings of these people and doesn't just speculate on it based on like some YouTube videos that he watched, right? So I do have criticisms of Ethan Carroll, so we will be criticizing him when necessary in this video. But this is mostly a response to Wes Huff, whom again, considering how much he's lauded by people like Mandy here, you would think would be far more, uh, give far better robust responses.
Know about the Schofield Bible? Oh boy, here's a rabbit hole for you. Here's a rabbit hole for all of us. In the early 1900s, right around when the Federal Reserve was founded and the Balfour Declaration happened, right at that exact same time, the Rothschild family hired this dude, this pastor in the Deep South. He made a new version of the Bible called the Schofield Bible. He wrote this new Bible that has all these new interpretations of the text. So they didn't change.
With Jewish influence.
Yes, literally, that's where Judeo-Christianity kind of came from. And the idea that Israel is this modern Israel thing is the Israel of the Bible. It came from that Bible. And
So the first thing that I want to say is that while his general description of these things might be accurate, he's just kind of leaving too much vagueness in order to be contradicted there. He doesn't provide any sources. That's a big problem. If you're going to make these extraordinary claims, you really need to make sure that you back up these things and not just kind of say like, "Oh, have you ever looked into this? Wow, this is like it's very Joe Rogan-y." And then, "Oh, I'm going to look it up on Wikipedia." Kind of low tier stuff. And I think that it's a good way to get called out easily for some minor things. When you're making major claims like this, you have to be very, very, very tight in the way in which you criticize these things. Otherwise, you're just doomed for people to nitpick apart your entire worldview, which is exactly like what's happening with Candace Owens recently, right? She makes these kind of vague declarations that, oh, I'm just asking questions, and then people just nitpick it apart. If you want to oppose the Zionist or dispensationalist groups that are fighting for these issues, you need to be a lot more careful than what they are.
the Schofield Bible was funded by the Rothschild family. And
In a abstract way, yes.
then it was pushed because they owned the publisher that publishes like all the books. I think it was Oxford Press. And so they had the deals that they could make to get that Bible into all the mega churches across whole denominations of Christianity. And so that was when Christianity got kind of Jewified.
So again, that's when Christianity got Jewified. I mean, not really. Jews don't really like Christianity, even though they have dispensationalists. No, the reality is that most Christians don't actually have the Schofield Bible. Schofield Bible is very specific to very specific denominations, and those denominations are a fraction of a percentage of the overall population of Christians around the world. So that's the first problem.
Schofield Reference Bible was edited by Cyrus Schofield and was published in 1901, updated in 1917, and revised then again in 1967. Schofield was not hired by anyone.
So again, Wes Huff is making the same mistake that Ian Carroll is. He's not providing any evidence. He's just stating some basic surface level facts like it was revised and it was done this. But it wasn't funded by the Rothschilds. Okay, do you have any evidence of that? Can you explain why Ian is wrong?
Least of all the Rothschilds, there is simply no tangible evidence.
Okay, then you should be able to easily debunk it. Maybe show that the Rothschilds didn't own the printing press that Schofield had.
Of Rothschild investment or financial backing when it comes to the Schofield Reference Bible. And Schofield did not...
So, The Schofield Reference Bible, again, was printed by a press. The allegation is that the Rothschilds owned the press that Schofield Bible was being printed in originally, right? So the question is not whether it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to bring up that they didn't have direct influence. It's called tertiary influence, and so Wes isn't actually addressing what the argument was. And whether or not you like Ian Carroll is irrelevant because he's not actually addressing the argument that Ian Carroll made.
Write a new Bible. He produced a study Bible.
Okay, but that's exactly what Ian Carroll said, right? All he did was go and say he wrote a Bible that had a bunch of new interpretations of the text. Yes. Yes, that's the point that he's making. So you're not actually debunking anything he's saying. You're just reiterating it and then feigning argument from incredulity. You're just being incredulous.
The text of the Schofield Reference Bible is simply the text of the standard 1769 Blayney revision, translation of the King James Bible. Most of what the Schofield included was already well within the mainstream of American Protestantism at the time, and was of course very strongly influenced by the teachings of John Nelson Darby, part of the Exclusive Brethren movement. There's no evidence that these opinions started with the Schofield Bible.
Yeah, but if you go back even deeper, the whole Darby thing is very much, a lot of people say, suspect and related to certain groups of people that wanted to push a very specific theological paradigm amongst the Protestant movements in America. So this is, again, just a hand waving. It's just saying, well, it's more related to Darby. Well, yeah, but Darby's related to Schofield, and they both have tangential relations to the Rothschilds or to big bankers and things of that nature. I mean, this is like he's not addressing the argument. So how is Wes Huff absolutely destroyed one of the internet's favorite conspiracy theories? What has he destroyed so far? He hasn't provided any evidence besides saying, well, that's not true. But that's just saying something's not true doesn't actually show that you've demonstrated it not to be true.
That they were financed by the Rothschilds, or that overt Jewish influence was involved in its backing or production. The study Bible did not invent the idea of Judeo-Christianity or
No, again, he's nitpicking the words that Ian's saying rather than actually focus in on the actual substance of what he's saying. Judeo-Christian as in Zionism, as in dispensationalism. That's what we're talking about.
support the modern Israel. It popularized many views that followed Darby's theological perspectives, but this was nothing new. Schofield, like Darby, was an outspoken dispensationalist, and so his study notes reflected that particular...
That's the whole point. That it was being pushed precisely because they were dispensationalist, which was a modern acronym. Oh man. Well, you guys get to see my security window update. There we go. Which is a modern accretion. I mean, it's a clear accretion. Like none of the reformers held to a dispensationalist view, and certainly none of the early church fathers. So again, all that's being pointed out is that this odd, kind of very, very fringe view was popularized intentionally. That's the whole argument, and you're not doing anything to demonstrate that's not the case.
Theological position. Ian here is simply repeating or making up entirely conspiracy theory that is not reflective of the evidence we actually have and know concerning the Schofield Reference Bible's history, influence, and development.
It's just I'm not crazy here, guys. He literally made no argument. When you start analyzing if people are actually making arguments or actually providing evidence for their claims, sure. But all Wes did here was provide literally zero evidence. In fact, he provided the opposite of evidence. It's just his claim. He's just saying, wow, there's no evidence for that. Okay, well, can you show me how there's no evidence for that? For example, did the Rothschilds not own or have investments in the printing press of where the Schofield Study Bible was widely disseminated? I mean, that might help your case, but that's not the case. So again, Wes Huff just proves more and more every video that I've done of him that he just is not capable of being honest when interacting with these things. And my view of his rigor when it comes to the fields that he claims to be a part of, historian, researcher, speaker, I find it more and more lacking every day. So again, critiquing somebody's arguments is not saying that his arguments are false. For all we know, Wes Huff is absolutely right, and he's absolutely calling out Ian, and Ian's wrong. But he's not actually arguing. He's not actually addressing what Ian is saying, right? So he's not providing anything. And for all we know, Ian is just talking out his butt, right? Ian just made a bunch of assertions as well. But Ian wasn't claiming to be debunking anybody. He was just kind of generally talking on a podcast about something. So, needless to say, this was a disappointing video. If you want to see somebody who talks about dispensational and the Schofield Study Bible and things of that nature, and the connections it has to certain groups of people and things of that nature, you can look into Jay Dyer. He talks about the Schofield Study Bible and dispensationalism quite often, and he has references to back up his claims, unlike what Wes and Ian did here. So, guys, if this is a lesson about anything, it's a lesson about don't talk out of your butt if you don't know what you're talking about.